I have something for you, Michael. I borrowed something from my friend down at the Attorney General's office. Say something. Come on, say something. Come on, man. Cold ass coffee. Anyways, this is going to be a spoiler heavy review. Let me go ahead and give you a synopsis of this movie if you don't already know. This is 40 years later after the original of John Carpenter's 1978 film. H2O didn't happen. Halloween 2 didn't happen. All the other sequels were erased. None of that is canon to this film. The only one that stands is John Carpenter's 1978 classic Halloween film. If you don't love that movie, then you don't love slashers. You don't love horror movies. What the hell are you doing here? Alright guys, welcome to Destination Station. The Halloween season is approaching us. This is a review on Halloween 2018. I'm going to be doing some spoilers here, so if you haven't seen the movie, click off this video, go see it, and then come back and watch this video here. I know I'm a little bit late to the game, but I had to see this movie twice. I had a packed theater audience, and it was very loud, and you'll be surprised at how many people brought their young ones to this movie, like 5, 6-year-olds, 10-year-olds all in the movie, teenagers. I'm just like, you know, this is rated R. This probably isn't appropriate for kids. Take them to go see Venom or something. I don't know, but it was very hard to hear a lot of dialogues, and there was a lot of things that I was conflicted on. A buddy of mine gave me this cup where it's like excited, jealous, sleepy, confused, and I was like, man, I feel all those things with this movie here. So yeah, I was very conflicted with this movie, and I just had to see it twice to really get a grasp on it, and to like, I felt like there was little things like pieces of dialogue that I missed. So I'm glad I went and saw this movie again. So yeah, so here's my initial thoughts, my review on the film. And overall, I did like it. So if it sounds like I'm butchering this review, this movie, all the way through this review, then I'm sorry. It's not. It's just, this is one of my beloved franchises, and there are some things that I just had a problem with. Just like the opening of this video, where I was holding up the Michael Myers mask. You can see part of it in the trailer. But there's a line of dialogue where that character says, you know, I borrowed something from a friend at the Attorney General's office, and he holds up the mask to kind of resurface Michael Myers and get him to say something. They're kind of taunting him, and I find that bullshit. 1978, part of evidence. I don't care who's your friend. I don't care if it's your daddy, your mama, your best friend, whatever. Nobody's going to risk their job and give you a piece of evidence. I just thought that was kind of like lazy writing, and maybe it was rushed writing, because the opening of this movie was supposed to change the events of the climax of the 1978 Halloween film. And I'm glad they didn't go with that. John Carpenter said, don't fuck with the original. We all learned that from Scream 4. And I think that worked best. You can see at the end of the movie with Jamie Lee Curtis's house, the way it's set up. It's set up just like the last the ending of the 1978 film with the closet and the balcony and all that kind of stuff. They were going to use that house for to change the ending in 1978, and they decided not to do that, and they put the house in it as Jamie Lee Curtis's house, which was cool. I'm okay with that. We'll get on that later, but so I feel like that they rushed the writing there at the beginning with you know what he says, how he obtained the mask. I wish we would have known a little bit more about that. But at first I was like, why is this doctor, I can't talk today, why is this doctor allowing them to do this? But then his motives come into play later on in the film, and basically they're holding up the mask and trying to taunt him into saying something. You see Michael kind of slightly turn, you see all the psych patients get all up in an uproar and get, you know, all worked up, and you know they're trying to say, you know, just say something, Michael, say something, and nothing. There's nothing. He kind of slightly turns a little bit. You see a side of his face, but he turns back, and then we get a title card, Halloween, and just like an homage to the original, the 1978 title card was a pumpkin, and it was it was falling apart and crumbling and coming together. And this one, it's coming back together. It's regrowing. It's so that's basically the evil resurfacing. The movie putting fresh air, breathing fresh life into this franchise, and Michael Myers coming back, which I really dug that. That was really cool and creative. So then, you know, we get introduced to our characters. Jamie Lee Curtis, she's kind of got a Sarah Connor from Terminator kind of vibe to her. Sigourney Weaver kind of vibe to her, which I kind of like that. Instead of the events of H2O, her character, she was just kind of like running and scared and trying to avoid the Halloween season and very protective of her son, which I wish Josh Hartnett. I don't know. I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted on that because I am a fan of H2O. I know a lot of people aren't. They have their problems because they say it's a product of its time around Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, all that kind of stuff, and I can see that. But maybe that's why I like it so much, because I love those movies. I'm a big 90s slasher guy, and that came out right around the same time. But now that being older and looking at the franchise in a different light, I can see why people have problems with it, especially with the masks. I know that movie had a lot of masks. But luckily, the mask is very badass in this movie. So we begin to learn more about Jamie Lee Curtis. She's got this house, this fortress. Basically, she's got security cameras, security floodlights. She's got this island in her kitchen that she hits a button and the island moves, and she goes down there and she's got all kinds of guns and food and like a little shelter. And she's just kind of drove herself kind of crazy. She's not really crazy, but it appears that way to other people. She's I guess just a little bit too overbearing when it comes to her children. It's made her daughter, Judy Greer's character, be more distant to her, and Judy Greer wants to protect her daughter, which is Andi Matichak. I think I'm pronouncing her name correctly. The granddaughter wants to protect her, but the granddaughter is wanting to know more about the grandmother. She wants to see her and all. I will have to say that even though that my theater audience was very obnoxious at moments, it was very fun to watch the movie like that. I'm so glad I got to see it like that. I appreciate it more. At first, I don't like people talking during the movie. I don't like people being very loud and obnoxious, like it's their living room at home. It's like, no, be more considerate of the other viewers. We're here to try to watch a movie. But I'm glad I got that experience, because the moment that Michael put on the mask, finally obtained that mask, the whole crowd was whoa, just clapping and cheering, and just it was cool. It was a really great experience. Times when those exciting moments happen, the very next scene is kind of dumbed down with some comedy. I know they're trying to balance some humor in there, and I hear a lot of complaints on YouTube about the humor in this movie. I didn't find it that bad. I didn't think it was that funny, but I didn't find it as cringe-worthy as others, because I've seen a lot worse in other horror movies. I kind of expected some cringe comedy here and there to kind of lighten the mood a little bit. Then we get the granddaughter walking down the sidewalk with her two friends from school, just like in the original 1978 where Jamie Lee Curtis was talking. And this is where you get kind of like a little bit of story from the granddaughter about that. No, it's not her brother. That's something that people made up, which is that's just telling you right there they're getting rid of Halloween 2, where they brought that in. They brought that idea in to where Jamie Lee Curtis was Michael Myers' sister. Then we learn that the doctor, his hidden motives about, you hear him at the beginning, and this is something I missed on my first viewing. That's why I had to see this movie twice before I did my initial review. Is that the doctor says early in the movie that they're going to have him transported. I think he says executed or put away for the rest of his life or something like that. But he's the one having him transported. And you find out later on, we'll get onto that, of his hidden motive. Coincidentally happening around the Halloween season, you see Jamie Lee Curtis. She's watching him be boarded onto this bus and leaving, and she's kind of freaking out in the truck. I want to ask somebody, and let me know in the comments below. And I know there was a lot of reshoots with this movie and stuff like that, especially with the climax, the ending. But if you recall, she's sitting in her truck outside of them transporting Michael from the hospital, and she's drinking and she's freaking out, and the camera goes inside the cab, and you see someone walking up to her window in the background while she's screaming. And I was like, who was that about to walk up? I thought we would get a flashback later on in the movie about who that was. Like, was that the doctor? Was that somebody else? Was that somebody saying, hey, get off this property, get away from here, you crazy ass lady? Who knows? But no, I don't know why that looked like that. But anyways, if anybody knows if there was like a reshoot or a deleted scene or something like that, let me know in the comment section below. But you go to, you know, Jamie Lee Curtis, she's freaking out with her daughter, her granddaughter at the dinner table and all this. Then you get some backstory with Judy Greer where, you know, DHS came in and took her away because of her living conditions. Her mom was basically training her to be Tomb Raider, Lara Croft. But I thought that was a little, that flashback and that, you know, I don't think they needed the flashbacks. She could have just told that story to her granddaughter, because I thought the flashback, I was like, that seems a little too much. But, you know, it only happens for a quick minute. So you come to find out that the granddaughter has a Halloween dance to go to tonight. You're introduced to the boyfriend and his friend and all that stuff. But, you know, they're supposed to be like a little after party. Not really after party. She just her girlfriend is babysitting this kid that really stole the show. And I gotta talk about this scene for a second. She's wanting Annie Matichak to come over after the Halloween party and smoke some abracadabra or bring some abracadabra or something like that, kazam or whatever she says, whatever word. And this kid really stole the show. This little kid, he was just like, I know you're talking about smoking weed, and he was like cussing and stuff. His comedy was really clever. And that kid's going places. And I hope if they do a sequel, which I think they are because this movie's banking, I hope he's in the sequel, you know. One thing I have to say is that the kills in this movie is very brutal. Even though you don't see a lot of them on screen, some of them you do. And the body count's very high. I really like that. That was really cool. I mean, we're getting body counts from the beginning of the film to the very end. And a lot of them are very effective with just seeing like someone's face just on like the table and his jaws like just, you know, dislocated and ripped apart and just stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff. I know this was a lower budget movie and that's probably why they did that. But, you know, a lot of these kills kind of felt like a Jason Voorhees kind of kill, like from the Friday the 13th. Not cheesy. They didn't feel cheesy. They felt like they fit in the Halloween universe. But it just felt like more Jason Voorhees style in a Friday the 13th movie. So you got Will Patton's character driving around looking for Michael. They find the granddaughter, puts her in the back of the squad car, and then you got the doctor riding around with Will Patton's character, and he's known to be the new Loomis or whatever. Even Jamie Lee Curtis mentions to him that, you know, oh, you're the new Loomis. So it's like, okay, audience, don't you know? And I was like, no, not my Loomis. I don't think so. Something about him just felt kind of cartoony, and I felt like he was like a villain out of a Bond movie or something. I could just smell that a mile away. And so they're driving around, they're looking for Michael and everything, and then, you know, the granddaughter says he's right there. So the Will Patton's character just hits him with the car and knocks Michael down on the ground. He gets out. He's getting ready to kill him. The doctor gets out too, and he has like this little retractable scalpel knife thing that's in his pen that he's always clicking on throughout the movie. And he starts stabbing Will Patton's character, and that's another con of this movie. I was like, oh man, like you just killed one of the best characters in this movie. I'd like to see him in the sequel. Maybe he can be the new Dewey, which he wasn't as dopey as Dewey in the Scream movies. But, you know, like, I just really liked his character. I liked him and Jamie Lee Curtis teaming up in this film. And I would like to see his character keep going in this franchise if they decide to make a sequel, which I think they are. But, you know, you don't really see him die. I know this is wishful thinking, but you don't see him die. You see him stab. He hits the ground. Kind of find out that the doctor pretty much orchestrated the whole bus crash. You don't get to see it. That's another con. I wanted to see that bus crash. I wanted to see Michael fuck people up during that crash sequence. Then you see that the doctor just is obsessed to make him talk. He wants to see this confrontation between him and Jamie Lee Curtis. And I just thought this was really stupid. You know, he puts on Michael Myers' mask, drags Michael Myers, puts him in the back of the squad car with the granddaughter, and then throws the mask in the back seat and starts driving. And and Michael Myers is just out in the back seat, you know, with the granddaughter. And I was like, oh, this is so stupid. This is how we're going to plot device this whole situation of how we get Michael from point A to point B for this big climax. Fucking stupid. So he's escorting Michael all the way there, and he says, you know, the sister's name, and he says Judith. Did he ever say his name? And the granddaughter's kind of lying to him and saying, you know, yeah, I heard him say, you pull over, I'll let you know what he says. He said, was it the sister's name? Judith. And you see his hand kind of move a little bit, and it's like that woke him up, and I was just kind of like, what? And next thing you know, Michael Myers somehow put that mask on before the granddaughter could even see it next to her. And he just, this whole idea of this twist of where this doctor orchestrated all this and kind of wants to feel what it's like to kill somebody. He's kind of drove himself mad. He's very obsessed with Michael Myers, just like Dr. Loomis, but just in a different light. Even though they do this twist with the doctor that I didn't like, and I think a lot of us are on the same page with it, is that, you know, they get rid of it really quick. So that's what I like, because I don't want to see that in the sequels or whatever. I was like, I know, that's horrible. Don't do that. I think it would have been a lot better writing if, like, there was only one, you know, they're looking for Michael Myers, but there's only one place he could go, his home. And that's where the climax happens. But we get it to where the doctor escorts him all the way to Jamie Lee Curtis's house, and, you know, he pulls over, you know, to you know, say the word Judith and all that, and then Michael just ends up just slamming his legs and just breaking through the back seat and slamming him up against the steering wheel, pulls him out the car, and the doctor's laying there looking up at Michael, and Michael's looking down, and with the lights of the police and everything shining on his mask, that looks so badass. And there's a lot of good lighting in this movie, I will say. That's a very big pro. And the doctor's looking up, and he's just like, say something. And Michael just stomps on his head, and it just splatters like a fucking pumpkin head. And then the daughter runs off into the woods, which was dumb. I kept on thinking, what's that old song that over the hill and through the woods to grandmother's house we go? I don't know. I just started singing that like in my head while I was watching the movie. And you know, and then the two comedic cops talking about the bond meat sandwich or whatever the hell. And then a lot of people hated that scene. I was like, oh, it was okay. It wasn't significant, but it wasn't that bad. I didn't think it was that bad. But they get killed. You know, they're pretty introduced. That's their way that they're introduced, and then they're killed right away. And like I said, the body count's really huge in this one, and, you know, I'm okay with that. I like that. And that's one of the pros too, is that you know, you don't get to see them get killed, but the aftermath, you see a squad car come up at the front of Jamie Lee Curtis's house, parks at the front, and the dad comes out the front door like a dumbass by himself. He's over there playing with the damn yo-yo, being dopey, and he goes out there and he opens up the squad car, and you see like this flashlight just shoved up the neck of the severed head like a jack-o'-lantern. It's illuminating through the eyes and everything, so it's like all the stuff inside the head is just dug out, which was really cool. That was really cool. I've never seen that done before. And so Michael Myers comes up behind him, kills him. Jamie Lee, and he fires a shot that gives Jamie Lee Curtis and Judy Greer's character that are inside, you know, hey, we need to lock things up. She tells Judy Greer to get down in the basement where she has that island in her kitchen. She hits a button, and it's like a cellar down there with all the guns and food and stuff. She tells her to get down there, and Judy Greer is kind of freaking out. And Jamie Lee Curtis, one of the better parts of the movie, where she's like looking out you see it in one of the trailers where she's looking out the window with her gun, and you see Michael Myers bust through the window, pick her up. This time, you know, you don't see it in the trailer, but he's like banging her head on the door and picking her up from her feet, and she shoots his fingers off. So he's like got like 3 fingers. I think it's these 3. I don't know, but that was pretty cool. He lets her go. And then they play this whole cat and mouse thing throughout the house, and I think this is where the reshoots were, because I think in the original reshoots of what I heard is that Jamie Lee Curtis had a bunch of traps around the house, and Michael was getting, you know, caught up in it. And if you watch the trailer, you see a lot of stuff that wasn't in the actual movie, and you see where they're like fighting Michael in the front yard with the floodlights and stuff, and Jamie Lee Curtis is coming at him with the knife. But I think when they showed that to test audience, they didn't like it, so they went ahead and reshot the ending. I hope it's on the Blu-ray, the 4K, whatever. Please do that. Universal or Blumhouse, whoever's, just put that. I want to see the deleted scenes, and I want to see the alternate ending. So then we have this whole cat and mouse thing where Jamie Lee Curtis is going through the house, and that's where you come across this one room with all these mannequins that she's been shooting earlier in the movie for target practice. And it's set up just like the ending of the original 1978 with the balcony here. You got the bed, and you got the closet. And Jamie Lee Curtis, you see a blood trail going to the closet, and gets the barrel. This is stupid. She gets the barrel and starts, opening up the closet with the barrel. Just enough so, like, that's dumb. Just start shooting. Who else is in that closet? Just start firing on that closet. But he's not in the closet. She turns around, and she's about to look behind one of the mannequins, and bam! Michael Myers looks for the perfect opportunity to jump out, attack her. He picks her up by the gun, has it right here, and then they start fighting, and she tries to stab him. He turns it on her, and he stabs her, it looks like in the stomach or in the side or something, and he just tosses Jamie Lee Curtis off the balcony, and she's laying there on the ground at the bottom of the balcony. And then you hear the granddaughter. She finally makes it to the granddaughter finally makes it to the grandmother's house, and she's yelling out for her mom and everything, and that gets Michael Myers' attention, and he turns around, and when he turns back and looks down, Jamie Lee Curtis is gone, just like Michael did to her in the original 1978 film. And so it's like, oh shit, the hunter has become the hunted, and they're going around, and he's looking, I guess, for the, Judy Greer finally gets her daughter downstairs in that cellar underneath. Michael Myers comes back to the kitchen. He's hitting the island, and he's trying to break it. He flips it off, and Judy Greer grabs a gun, and she's just like, I can't, and you can see the whole gun barrel swaying and stuff like that, because she's crying and she's hysterical, looking up the stairs. And finally, Michael Myers appears, and she says, "Got you." Bam! And I think she hits him right here in the neck or side of the face or something. And then you see Jamie Lee Curtis. This is one of my cons too. I know a lot of people like it, but Jamie Lee Curtis is face in the back doorway that's real dark. It appears, it gets illuminated. It's like, "Happy Halloween, Michael." I think that's what she says. But it just looks so. It looks CGI almost. I was like, oh, that doesn't look right, because it's just the way it appears. And I know they were trying to do an homage to the original 1978 where Michael Myers walks out and stuff like that. I wish they would have been a little bit more subtle with it, but they kind of went a little cheesy with it. And she comes out, she hits him, she grabs a frying pan, she pops Michael over the head with him. He falls down in the cellar. The girl's running up. Of course, he grabs someone's ankle, and she's trying to pull him down and everything. And the Jamie Lee Curtis is telling the granddaughter, get the knife that's laying right there. And she's like, no, and she's back and forth, and she finally gets the courage to grab the knife and stab Michael to make her let go of her mom. And he finally lets go and falls down the cellar a little bit more. And that's when you find out that it wasn't a hideout, it was a trap. And you see these bars come across, and they trap Michael. And then they set the house on fire. She gets a flare, and she throws it down there, and Michael Myers is just standing there looking up at her, and just that kind of stuff was badass, because the flames are coming in on slow motion, and you see it all behind Michael down there, and it looked like he was looking up from hell, like bitch, you got me. And but you never see Michael Myers burnt. You don't see him caught on fire. And I started thinking, I was like, don't they know that they did this in Halloween 2? This shit didn't work. But Halloween 2 isn't in this timeline. So they end up, they leaving the house. They're leaving the house, and you see the house just go engulf in flames. And they find a truck on a nearby road, and they're like, hey, we need your help. They get in the back of the truck. They ride off. You see the house more in flames. The camera cuts back to the cellar, and you don't see him. You don't see him laying there burning, nothing. You just see an empty room. So I'm thinking, okay, well, he got out somehow. So I really do think that they're sequel baiting with this movie, which I'm okay with. I like that. But there's this ending shot. It does end kind of abruptly, and I like it if I think that they're going in this direction, but I didn't like it at first. First, you see the three in the back of the truck, and you see the knife in the granddaughter's hand, and then just title card, Halloween comes up. A lot of people was like, are they going to take the Halloween 4 approach to where, you know, Jamie, the Jamie Lee Curtis's daughter or whatever in that one, in that timeline, like she got bad, she became bad, she got the evil in her? No, I don't think so. I think that was where, you know, she finally picked up the knife and protected herself and her mom and stabbed him. Now she's a fighter. Now she's a warrior. That's where I think that they're going with that. And it ends abruptly, and the reason why, here's one of my theories and what I would like to see as a sequel. I would like to see a sequel that this picks up at the same exact time that this leaves off. If the sequel comes out the same exact night, they're riding into the truck, they're riding into town to get help and everything like that. Michael Myers didn't die, and everything's still going on the same night. You know, you still got some of the characters that survived from this movie, and maybe they can be a part of it, like the granddaughter's boyfriend from the dance. Maybe he could be a part of it. You know, he could be a victim, whatever. And I think that would be really cool. They did that in Halloween 2 after the 1978 film. That, you know, it picks up right at the end of the events of the first film. What if this one did it as well? I wouldn't be mad about that. I think that'd be cool if the second film is in the same night. I think that would be a really cool idea. Some people left the movie feeling a little bit, you know, underwhelmed when this movie ended. They were like, "That's it. That's all we're gonna have." And I think it did its purpose. I think this was a very solid Halloween film. I think that it's one of the better sequels out there. I am still a fan of H2O. I'm not gonna be on the hate train on that movie, because that movie came out right around the right time, and I remember having a great time in the theaters watching that film. So I like it for what it is, and I like this for what it is. If I had to pick between the two, you know, I would say this movie overall, but I like the climax of H2O better. There you go. That's what I like, the beginning of H2O and the ending of H2O better than the beginning of this movie and the ending of this movie. Does that make sense? All right. Well, my score for this movie, overall I did like it. If you're a Halloween fan, you got to go see it. Hopefully this is a resurgence to the slasher genre. You got talks of LeBron James talking about bringing back producing Friday the 13th, that they can never get those rights taken care of and put in the right hands and make a right reboot, sequel, whatever they're planning on doing. I'm okay with that. I'm not the biggest Jason fan. I do like them for what they are, but they're a little bit more cheesier than Halloween and stuff like that. I'm really excited about Freddy Krueger. Robert Englund talking about he might don the Freddy glove one more time. I know he did an episode of the Goldbergs that actually aired yesterday. I did watch that episode, so I will have a review of that, so be looking out for that later on today. I think that's awesome. He said he's got one more Freddy in him. You know, I know he put the last nail in the coffin last year, talking about, you know, he's not going to play Freddy anymore, but now he's talking about he'd bring it back. I guess money talks, and I'm okay with that. Freddy, I grew up with Nightmare on Elm Street, but I hope that this Halloween movie, the way it's making bank, the way it's going to resurface slashers. I'm ready to see slashers back on the big screen. I know we had Hellfest earlier. We had, you know, it's not really a slasher, but, you know, he's like an iconic horror character. But that's what I want to see come back. I'm tired of the whole Paranormal Activity, ghost story, exorcism of this, exorcism of Hannah Grace. I think that's coming out here soon, and it's just like, come on. We did Emily Rose. We're doing Hannah Grace. We're doing. Let's let that rest for a little bit. All the poltergeist stuff. Let's bring back the slashers, because that's my favorite subgenre. And yeah, so my rating for Halloween 2018 is going to be a solid 8. It's not perfect. It's not everything that I wanted to see in the movie, but it is one of the better sequels. I would have to say that this and H2O would be a little bit lower just because of the mask situation, and it doesn't take place in Haddonfield. It's more at the school, but I was okay with that. And there's a lot of slow parts in the middle. You know, you don't see, you know, Michael going on a rampage like you do in this movie. And that's one thing that they got right in this movie, is that the lighting, what they did with Michael Myers. Like, there was like this one scene where like these floodlights in the backyard, and this guy was back there and he was drunk, he was intoxicated, and you see Michael standing in the distance, and he thinks it's the owner of the house, Mr. Elrod, which is a throwback to Halloween 2 of Mrs. Elrod, and the floodlights go off. And he doesn't know where you're at, and he's like, man, you're acting really sketchy right now. And you see Michael end up on this side of the yard, and it's like, whoa, what are you doing, man? You know, and then the lights go off again, and then when they come back on, he's like slashes at him, the little chase scene, and you know, needless to say, the dude gets it. But you know, things like that, that's what they really did right in this movie. And it's a lot of the death scenes, even though you don't get to see them on screen, the aftermath of them was very effective, and there was a lot of them. There was like, I think I read somewhere there was like 19 body counts in this entire movie. I could be wrong about that, but I think that's right. That's a big number up from H2O. But H2O's beginning and H2O's ending, I love still to today. That's my initial thoughts and review on the movie. What did you think about Halloween 2018? Leave your comments below. Subscribe to Destination Station if this is your first time here. And guys, Halloween season is approaching. I will have that Goldberg's. I think the name of that episode was Mr. Knifey Fingers or something like that. I don't watch the Goldbergs, but I watched it for this reason. So be looking out for that review. As always, everybody, have a good day.